Welcome to the 14th Annual University of Miami Real Estate Impact Conference. Today, we bring together some of the most influential voices shaping the future of real estate, including Nadeem Megji, Arnaud Carcenti, Peter Linneman, Willie Walker, Stuart Miller, Steve Witkoff, and Manny Cadre. We are proud to recognize our presenting sponsors: Blackstone, Douglas Elliman, H&M Development, Cap Morrison Acre LLP, Kislak Family Foundation, Metropolitan Realty Group, and Witkoff. We also extend our sincere appreciation to our platinum sponsors, our prestige sponsors, our premier sponsors, and our partner sponsors. Now let's dive into what's shaping tomorrow's skyline, right here at the 2026 University of Miami Real Estate Impact Conference. Next up on stage is Stuart Miller and Steve Witkoff. Stuart Miller is the Executive Chairman and CEO of Lennar Corporation. He is the former chairman of LNR Property Corporation, current chairman of UHealth, and member of the University of Miami Board of Trustees. Stuart is a leading Builders of America founding board member, Business Roundtable member, and former chairman of the Policy Advisory Board at the Joint Center for Housing Studies at Harvard University. And Steve Witkoff, who serves as assistant to the president and special envoy for peace missions for the United States. He previously served as founder of the Witkoff Group. He built a distinguished career in commercial real estate with landmark acquisitions, including the Woolworth Building, the Daily News Building, and the Park Lane Hotel, and has served on numerous civic and industry boards, including the Real Estate Board of New York and Hofstra University. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Stuart Miller and Steve Witkoff.
Hi, I am Andrea and Chuck's Cuban Uber driver that drove him yesterday. It's good to drive Uber. Look at where you end up. So my name is Manny Desaraga. I'm with JLL Capital Markets. I'm a two-time alum of the University of Miami. Go you. That previous panel was super interesting. The hamburger helpers were very tasty. But I think we should let them know, Peter and Willie, that they talked a lot about Harvard and Wharton, that Business School went up MBA 21 ranks positions in the Financial Times, number 36. So they'll be knocking on Wharton and HBS doors shortly. So it's an enormous honor to be here. This is really the most impressive, impactful real estate conference in the state of Florida, in probably one of the most exciting cities in the country. And it's really thanks to the university and two nationally leading programs, School of Business, School of Architecture, which we want to thank. This particular conference is a record setter in terms of number of registrants. I think it's almost about 1,100 registrants. There's seats for 750 in here, by the way. I'd like to also give, by the way, a special recognition to two ambassadors we have here, Michael Adler there, and Chuck Cobb over here, so welcome. I'd also like to give a special shout out to two people who've been running the questions today, Chuck Bowl and Andrea Houston, because they are absolutely passionate about the students and they do such an amazing job. Special thanks to the deans as well as both schools, the members of the advisory boards, and also want to thank the members of the Board of Trustees that are present here today. So our closing keynote, titled "The Rooms Where It Happened," brings together two leaders who have shaped skylines, markets, and policy from the inside of some of real estate's most consequential rooms. And here we are today in this room. Not only are they leaders in our industry, but they are global leaders, they and their families. I know family members are present here for the Miller and Witkoff family, in giving back, which is probably one of the most important aspects of their lives as servant leaders. Steve Witkoff, who we are honored to welcome, particularly given the demands on his time with current world events, is the founder and CEO of the Witkoff Group, a global real estate investment and development company known for truly transforming landmark properties and complex urban sites into high-profile urban projects. I had the honor of serving as Steve's vice chair on a real estate board for many years, and I've had the honor of working with him and his sons on a number of projects reshaping the Miami skyline. Steve is an absolutely passionate supporter of the University of Miami, had 2 sons that attended the UM Business School. He's endowed the Marvin Witkoff Scholarship in the business school, and is consistently the leading sponsor of this conference. In 2025, Steve brought his remarkable deal-making skill set to public service as a special envoy for the President of the United States, engaging at the highest diplomatic levels on some of the world's most challenging negotiations. I gotta tell you, it is absolutely amazing Steve is here today for all of us from what we know. So. Stuart Miller, who is no stranger to anyone at the University of Miami, shares Steve's commitment to community and expertise on both real estate, leadership, and giving to the community. Stuart, a longtime civic and educational leader in Miami and former chair of the University of Miami Board of Trustees, Stuart is now chair of the UHealth Board of Directors and has been a visionary leading major community and philanthropic initiatives, including the university's most recent campaign. There's still room in the campaign if you want to donate on the way out. Stuart is executive chairman and co-chief executive officer of Lennar Corporation, one of the nation's largest and most innovative home builders, where he has served in leadership roles for over 35 years. Under Stuart's leadership, Lennar grew from a regional builder into a national platform, expanded into markets and product types, and helped define how scale, technology, and a land-light strategy can reshape housing delivery in America. Together, Steve and Stuart will take us inside the rooms where capital is committed, policy is negotiated, and city-shaping decisions are made. And they will reflect on what it will take to lead through the dynamic conditions impacting the real estate industry and the world today. So with that, I ask you to provide a resounding round of applause for Stuart and Steve.
Next up on stage is Stuart Miller and Steve Witkoff. Stuart Miller is the Executive Chairman and CEO of Lennar Corporation. He is the former Chairman of LNR Property Corporation, current Chairman of UHealth, and member of the University of Miami Board of Trustees. Stuart is a leading Builders of America founding board member.
Oh boy. Should we start right in? Yeah. Okay. Hi everybody. Thanks for having us. And as far as I'm concerned, it is such an honor to have our guest here, Steve Witkoff, along to talk to us a little bit about his journey and about some of the things that he's doing, and we're going to get right into it. But, you know, Steve, I'm going to start in kind of an off-the-cuff way. Your birthday's about 9 days away.
March 15th, yes.
And you are going to be 69 years old.
Yes.
You and I are the same, almost the same age. August is coming for me.
Right.
That is a big birthday. That's like the pathway to 70, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You know who else was born on March 15th, Stuart?
No.
Also someone else in the real estate business, Milton Cooper from Kimco. That's his birthday.
I had no idea.
He's going to be, I think he's going to be 95, I believe.
Well, I hope we both get there,
Yeah.
right?
Me too.
So, you know, first of all, I don't know who's here today, but I do want to note that your journey in life started in the Bronx. Is that right?
I was born there.
Born in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
Important people were born in the Bronx. And I just want you to know that if he's here, the president of the University of Miami also is a Bronx boy.
Oh.
His name is Joe Echeverria. Joe, are you here anywhere? He might be in the back somewhere. I don't know. But there he is. There he is, Joe Echeverria. And I think our chairman is a Bronx guy too, isn't he, Joe? Manny Cadre also. So, you should feel at home here at the university.
I do. I like Florida better than the Bronx, though.
Good. So there's another important birthday I want to commemorate, and that is, this is the 250th year for America, for the country. And in looking at your history, and where you have arrived, which is just an amazing journey from the Bronx to the world stage. I guess my first question to you is, it's America's birthday, it's 250 years, the American dream. How do you think about the American dream? How do you think about your American dream?
Well, I say it all the time, other than the death of my son, which, I thought I couldn't get over, but now I didn't think I could use the word blessings after Andrew died, but I can now. I describe my life as full of incredible blessings, this job being probably the most important, other than the birth of my children, and one overwhelming tragedy. But I got very lucky, and I think it's out there. I mean, to all the students out there, and we've discussed this, the American dream exists. That's why, as you said, everybody wants to come into this country.
It's absolutely the case. So I just want to take a little exploration of your journey, because you did start in the Bronx. You moved to Long Island. You came from quite humble beginnings, as I read it. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And just tell us about your early life.
Well, my father, I was born, my grandparents lived on Gun Hill Road. So I can remember to this day, getting on the couch, it had the plastic, I'd slide right off the couch. Passover, my grandmother was making gefilte fish. Literally carp and whitefish was swimming in the bathtub.
By the way, gefilte fish makes you gritty.
Yeah, it's right. No, borscht makes you gritty, because it's so terrible. So, and then my dad bought a home with my mom, of course, 964 Jerome Street. Paid $6,300. These were the days, before, maybe Bill Levitt was competing with you, with Lennar, but
he was a pioneer.
Right. So $6,400. I mean, right? Can you imagine that? Those are probably homes going for, I don't know, $1 million today. And then we moved to Old Westbury, which is a fancy neighborhood. But my father bought a sort of fixer-upper for $50,000 that he thought was the sun, the moon, and the stars, and that's how I lived. I mean, we went to Howard Johnson's for fish fry on Friday and chicken fry on Wednesday. Those were the nights out if we were going out. But my parents were amazing parents. They gave their children everything. And that's how I started in the business. I went to my father. I said to him, I've got this building I'm going to buy with my then partner, Larry Glock, who passed away, and I miss him. And I thought my father was going to say to me, no, and life's not about being happy and pursuing your dreams, just be a lawyer. And he gave me the $20,000, which is similar to the story of your father. And I couldn't believe it. And
okay, so you're getting a little ahead of me, because there's a little stuff that comes along the way, and that is you went to Union College.
Yeah.
You transferred to Hofstra, and then you went to law school at Hofstra, and you became a lawyer.
Correct.
And as a lawyer, you worked in transactional work relative to real estate. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, and Dreyer and Traub, where I practiced, was probably the go-to real estate firm in those days. All the big, cowboy-like real estate guys, Peter Calico, Donald Trump, the Zeises from Integrated. It was a fun place to work if you were going to practice. But I wanted to do what they were doing.
Yeah. So you had this thought that here you have these transaction guys that are doing real estate stuff, and you're a lawyer and you're helping them transact.
Right.
And you say, I want to be a real estate guy. How does that transition actually work?
Well, I think I was a little ahead of myself as I thought I want to be one of those guys. You know, the first building that Larry and I bought was 164 Sherman Avenue. We paid $180,000 for it. And we bought it with if I recall correctly, $165,000 Freddie Mac mortgage. And we put up like $20,000 in cash. And we thought we knew what we were doing. You would just, go collect the rents. And it didn't quite work like that. So we had to learn the business. We made plenty of mistakes along the way.
So this was a high-end business with really refined tenants and...
Oh yeah, very high-end, yeah.
I mean, tell us about the building a little bit.
But I met some amazing people, working class people who, when I started in the business, it was 1991. We were in a deep recession and things were really difficult out there. I remember, I'll give you a story that I remember to this day. I had a Yugoslavian crew, or me and Larry had a Yugoslavian crew who would do all the work, the plumbing and so forth. I learned how to sweat pipe and thread pipe if we were doing sewage lines, because we weren't rich guys. We had to stretch, any cash flow that we had. But we were fixing a big sewer job on 124th and Madison. Beautiful 2 elevator buildings, and one of the tenants in the building was largely a minority neighborhood. So one of the tenants in the building walks up to me, and she's got her 8-year-old daughter with her, and they're walking down the street, and she says to me, "Mr. Witkoff, I see you fixing something. Why don't you come up to my apartment for a coffee if you want to take a rest?" And she was soliciting me. And the reason she was soliciting me is because she had no money and she couldn't feed her kid. And she was saying to me, "If you want to come up there, then I'm available to you." And these were the sort of experiences that I had as I was growing in the business. So it was always about taking that in and understanding how lucky I was, even though I wanted to buy bigger buildings. I don't think that Larry and I, in the beginning of our career, ever had even a dream or a thought that we would own south of 96th Street. Like, to us, it was not possible. This was where we were going to be, but thank God we had our own business, and that was a wonderful thing. By the way, I ended up giving that woman, for whatever money I had in my pocket, I remember it like it was yesterday. But some of those experiences were so defining, these places that we ended up in, Larry, and invariably we'd end up on Arthur Avenue for those people who live in the Bronx, who came from the Bronx, and we'd be celebrating, whatever we did during that day, having a great meal at Dominic's, and those were some of the best years of my life.
So this was not a brand new building. It was a building that needed some fixing up.
Yeah, and we did it.
It was something that you bought affordably. Mm-hmm. A little bit of down payment, a lot of debt.
Yeah.
Who collected the rent?
I did, with Larry. Yeah.
You went out and you collected the rent.
Yeah, we collected the rent. And those were rough days, let me tell you. Each of us had a 38 on our ankle. We were licensed to carry. They were rough days.
Yeah. And things broke from time to time.
No, often.
Often.
There wasn't a
and
day
so you just called up the service people and had them come on out and charge whatever they'd like.
Yeah. But I want to tell you that Larry and I were really well respected within city government. Everybody knew we ran a clean, good, we were not slumlords. That's not who we were. We plowed money back in. I remember my then wife, when Andrew was first born in 1989, we lived in the Bagel Nosh building at 160 West 71st Street. And it was because there was a Bagel Nosh store there.
Why not?
Yeah. And
it had a good schmear and everything. Yeah,
right.
Go ahead.
We had a studio with a bed that pulled out of the wall. And we moved to a Glenwood building for $1,200 a month, York Avenue, 1365 York Avenue. And my then wife said to me, "I'll cook 5 days a week to defray expenses." Like, this is what it was like. We were plowing everything back in, buying more and doubling down as best we could, and felt like a great life.
So, look, I'm going in a direction because, in Washington, D.C., Michael Milken built it's almost a museum, but it is a center for discussing the American dream. And as I look at your life story, it seems like it's almost impossible and unfathomable, because it seems like you started in a very gritty, determined way. I want to be in real estate. I'm going to start somewhere. I'm going to work it. I'm going to collect the rents. I'm going to dig the trenches. I'm going to thread the pipe. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And we're going to build something that makes a little bit and a little bit more. It feels to me, very much like the story of the American dream and the evolution of people with upward mobility. Do you feel that? Is that?
No, I do, and I love speaking in front of the kids, the students, because my message is that it's out there. I think it's out there in Florida, by the way. I mean, even though this is the hottest real estate market out there in the country, but I think it exists for. We have capital here. We just had, I don't know what Peter Linneman said, but I read him voraciously, but it's the capital markets here. You go to these other countries, Stuart, there's a brain drain everywhere. I mean, Ukraine's lost half its population. No one believes in the upside there. It's pretty sad. Jared and I get out and we're trying to get that deal fixed, and on behalf of the president, and we're trying to sell people on prosperity and what could happen. It's very, very difficult to make that argument in some of these places.
Well, and I think that's probably kind of the pinnacle of your evolution. It feels very much to me, as I look at the things that you've endeavored, that you're in the business of selling prosperity to nations that really don't know what it looks like and really could benefit from that evolution. So I want to stick to your story for just another couple minutes, because I do think it is a story. My understanding is, as you started out in business, there wasn't a lot of time for vacation. It was a grinding number of years as you went from your first building to your second, and then maybe to your first 85. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's very accurate, yes.
Yeah. So then again in 1997, it seems that you made another turn, and that is you decided that you were going to focus on something a little bit more audacious and maybe take a step up. And lore has it that you had something to do with the Whirlpool building, or the Woolworth building.
Yeah.
And so tell us that story, because that's a step, but a big step and an audacious one.
Well, it was a distress sale, and we were buying it with Ruby Schroen, who was a dear friend of mine, and a major owner in New York, and very good friend of mine to this day. Very good friend to the president's too. And we had bought another project with him, the Fresh Meadows. It was a big development in Fresh Meadows that we bought, and we turned it around. So we went out and bought the Woolworth building, and it was it wasn't our first office building, but it was very symbolic. I actually walked the American flag up there, up to the top of it 2 days after 9/11.
Wow.
So right to the observation deck. I can remember like it was yesterday, Mayor Giuliani with President Bush and the F-16s flying over, and that's when I put up the American flag.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So that was a transaction that was materially bigger than some of the earlier ones that you did.
Yeah, but Larry and I at our height, we probably had, there were rumors we were going to become a REIT. We had conversations with Steve Roth at Vornado. He was talking about buying us and bringing us both into that business. We owned almost 15 million square feet of office space in those days. And I can remember when the Wall Street Journal, in 98, remember when we had the Russian bond collapse? And everybody was against.
I do.
Yeah, and we were front page because they called us the leverage kings. And I was trying to figure it out, because Roth had bought, and I love Steve, but still, he had paid for Worldwide Plaza on 48th and 8th. I think he had paid like $250 a square foot, but he had very little debt on it, maybe half debt. We owned our entire office portfolio at $60 a foot. That's how good our buys were in the mid and early 90s moving up. And the Wall Street Journal was saying that we were in trouble because we had 85% debt on $65 a square foot basis. And we just never could understand, some of the nonsense in those stories. Same thing with the fake news today, Stuart. That's what President Trump talks about. Yeah.
It's alive and well. But it wasn't invented for the Trump administration.
No, it existed back then.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. Steve Roth and Vornado were also negotiating to buy LNR at that time. At the very same time.
I remember like it was yesterday. Oh, do I remember?
Yeah. So, interesting. Our paths crossed. But it's that evolution from the first building to 85 buildings, from those buildings to the next big building, and then to becoming a pioneer in developing the real skyline of New York and expanding to Miami and LA. I go back and I think about our University of Miami. I think about the students of today. There's a message in all of this that I think is critical. And that is that 5-story walk-up that defined your beginning, from lawyer to real estate, and from what I'm doing to what I want to do. That building is out there today, don't you think?
Yes, I do. I really do. And I'm not just saying it. I'm saying that this is an amazing country, and you get rewarded with very good ideas. So if you have good ideas, you can make it work. I just think you have to work it. And I think that maybe is sometimes the missing link. I say all the time, success belongs to those who believe in it the most. That doesn't mean that you're always going to get there if you have that belief, but you have to have the belief and then be prepared to work hard.
Right. So this is a real estate forum. This is the capping discussion around that. And, real estate, we both know it's intensely entrepreneurial. No matter where you start, no matter what you've got, every next deal is a new adventure.
Yeah.
And it's all about putting together relationships, negotiations, capital sources, capital stacks, and building something that is a platform that leads to a future. Yeah. And I hope it comes through, because your adventure from that point going forward has really been quite surprising. You learn to negotiate, you learn to be a participant in community, you pulled resources together, whether they be union, whether they be subcontractors and politicians and all the other things, and somehow you refined some negotiating skills. And along comes opportunity for those skills to be used someplace else. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that transition from business to a much broader and political world where the stakes are higher, and I would suspect the rewards might be too.
Well, the rewards, because I think what I'm doing now matters. I think I'm not in the real estate business anymore. My kids run it, and they're exceptional kids, and they're not kids. They're exceptional young men, and they're very capable, but I think what I'm doing really matters, so the rewards are big. What happened in Israel, getting those hostages out, and I met every one of those families, it was so rewarding. And I can tell you, for everyone in this room, when we got the last 20 out, and they came to the White House, and Jared and I were there with the president, and the president had a tear in his eye. And he came up to me and he said to me, Steve, we've been in office for, I think then it was 9 months, and he had been in the Oval Office for another 4 years before that, and he said, over that period of time, I never had anything that emotionally affected me as much as this. So that work really matters, and if you get it wrong, people die. And that's, how I think about it. It gives me nightmares at times. But my God, it's such a blessing to do this work, Stuart. It really is. And the president is pretty amazing. He's an out-of-the-box thinker. So He understands how to do deals, so he figures out that other people from New York real estate backgrounds might understand it, or people like me, or Jared Kushner, or Howard Lutnick, or Scott Besant. I mean, he's got people like that, who people like you. I mean, this is who he would want working on his behalf, and I think he's a very good delegator. He's got a plan. He sends you off, and he's asking you to execute. And everybody really is sort of jazzed up working for him. It's an amazing administration. It really is.
So I appreciate the sentiment that the president might want someone like me, but those who know me well would know that I'd probably start a war, not fix one. So I'm going to stay in home building for right now.
Well, I got to tell you, me and Jared have come close to starting some wars too.
Okay, well.
The president inspires us to be very blunt with some of these people on the other side, including the Iranians. So we've said some incendiary things to them.
Well, I'm not surprised to hear that, but so in terms of negotiating skills, I mean, everybody's following the components that you're working on. Mm-hmm. And whether it was Israel and Gaza, whether it's Ukraine and Russia, whether it's what's happening in Iran and a number of the skirmishes that are happening around the world, nobody trusts each other. There is polarization in those negotiations. There's polarization in our country today. Mm-hmm. It seems like the valley between Republicans and Democrats sometimes feels like its own kind of natural war. How do you activate and pull some of those parties together to breed some trust and
right.
to find a middle ground? Well,
first of all, you're very right. I was just as an example, I was a legislative aide for Senator Javits way back when. He was the ranking Republican member of the Senate from New York. And Daniel Patrick Moynihan was the conservative Democrat. They were both of the same ideology. But the bigger point is that both of them were all about doing for the people of New York. And we don't have that kind of sentiment now. Like everyone's a national politician, and they're stuck in their party's policies. And I think that's not such a healthy thing. But the deal-making business, as you know, Stuart, is just about figuring out what each party needs. And the mediation business, and that's sort of what Jared and I both do now, is about figuring out what each party needs to get a deal done. And deals, if they're bad deals, are going to be broken. We've seen that every time, right? That's what happens. So it's critical that we have to understand in Ukraine, Russia, for example, what are the politics for Vladimir Putin? And that means you have to spend a lot of time with him and understand where he's coming from and why he wants the Donbass that bad. And then you have to spend a lot of time with Zelensky, on the other hand, and understand what he's trying to accomplish. And is there the political will in Ukraine to accommodate what the Russian demands are? So it's complicated because you have to study quite a bit about it. But the basics of getting a deal done are always going to be about how do you put two parties together, narrow those issues, get them to understand that a deal is better than not doing a deal. In the case of the Russian thing, I mean, there's probably 2 million combat deaths between those two countries. Like, that's horrendous. And they can't bury, in the winter, they can't bury those bodies. They're just laying right out on the field.
Terrible.
Yeah.
So a lot of people wonder, you grow up in the Bronx and you come into real estate and everything else. What's it like for you to all of a sudden find yourself sitting at the table? Do you have long meetings with Putin?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you what it's like to work for President Trump. I was sitting with him the other day, and everybody was in the room. J.D. Vance, Marco, Susie, Hegseth, it's like the whole crew. And he turns and he sees me and he says, "Steve, do you realize how lucky you are that you have me as a friend and I hired you?" And I say, yes, sir, Mr. President, I certainly do. I know how lucky I am.
That's the right answer, yes.
Exactly.
Good.
Well, I do know, by the way, how lucky. I mean, it is a truthful statement. You know, when you can hear him, he's very, very funny. I mean, I heard him pick up the line the other day. I'm trying to remember who it was. Oh, it could have been Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General. And he said, hi, Mark, it's your favorite president. So honestly, it's really fun working for him. I mean, it really is. But the truth is, what's also great about it is that what I'm talking about, the way he manages. First of all, he's the most accessible man you ever met in your entire life. He's the Energizer Bunny, and he will take every meeting. He doesn't refuse a meeting. He signs every autograph. He's just available. I think he revels in the job now even more so than in his first administration because there's been so much vindication, rightfully so. But he's so smart, and he gets he does the cost-benefit analysis that we naturally do in our business. He gets to it very, very quickly. And he understands that, it's not easy. The world is a difficult place, and there's a lot of agendas out there. In Russia, Ukraine, my God, both of these countries are geared towards a wartime economy. So you've got a lot of people making a lot of money on selling arms and manufacturing who don't want to see this war end. And that goes right back to Hamas. In this Hamas deal, and you'll find this, you'll understand what I mean when I say this, everybody, the inflection point in that deal was Jared and I meeting with Hamas and convincing them at that meeting that the hostages were no longer an asset to them, they were a liability. Like the world looked at it, that holding those hostages and not treating them well was really bad for them. There was no good PR that came from it. That was the moment that at that meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh that we turned it and got the last hostages out.
So I'm going to ask my last question a slightly different way. You artfully turned it to what it was like to be with the president. I asked about Putin, but I'm going to ask it a different way and say, I mean, we know where you grew up. We knew you grew up on gefilte fish and other things like that. Mm-hmm. What's it like to sit down and have that discussion with Hamas? I mean, you're in the room.
Well, it was really, I want to choose my word carefully. First of all, it felt really important. Like it felt like they came because there was a deal to do. And we had 20 families who were calling us all the time, saying to us, are our kids coming home? And the odds were that all of them would be murdered. That was the odds. The odds were that the Israelis would go in because they were threatening it. And that, by the way, that helped, that pressure helped, but the odds are that they were going to be killed. And the intelligence reports suggested that, but they came to this meeting, and Khalid al-Hayya, who had lost a son in the Doha strike, began talking about his son who he had lost, and I began telling him about Andrew, who had died. And now we were two fathers who were members of that very bad club who had buried children. And I am telling you, Stuart, that formed a connection. We told him that we felt peace was the way, and he went out with the other 4 Hamas guys there, the 4 leaders, the political wing. They came back and they said, you have a deal. And that's how it went down.
That's an incredible... And for those of you who might not know, Andrew was a University of Miami student. Is that right?
Yeah, loved it here. Yeah. Loved it.
Yeah. And you warmly remember.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I need to say, and I'm not just pandering, that President Trump, and I don't need to say this, I just say it because it is the truth, and it's important for everyone to know that this doctrine of peace through strength, it works, because it's a dangerous world. We couldn't get the Iranians to come to the table without an aircraft carrier, in the Gulf of Oman. It just wouldn't work. They would not come. They wouldn't listen to us. They come because that aircraft carrier is there. And you have to, I remember I was reading what the foreign minister from Iran said, and he was saying, oh, big deal, that aircraft carrier, so what? We'll take care of it, we'll sink it. Jared and I flew out there on Ospreys, those amazing planes. We flew out to the aircraft carrier, and we had the great honor, the Abraham Lincoln, addressing the crew, you know, where they blow the whistle. And we got to actually address that entire crew and tell them, you know, how grateful we were that they were out there on the front lines protecting our democracy and keeping our life the way it is. It was just, I can't explain how.
So that's amazing.
How
Those are
epic it
amazing
is.
experiences.
Yeah, but also, Jared and I both sort of elbowed each other and said, how could they say that this is not, you know, an awesome projection of power? It is. I mean, you get on one of these things, there's 75 strike planes, F-35s, F-22s, F-15s, and I was as far away from the planes taking off as I am from Toby right here, okay? And literally, and the pilots would be there, you know, they were doing the training runs. This was 4 days before we went, when we were on that aircraft carrier. And he'd be in the cockpit, and he'd go like this to me and Jared. I think to myself, my God, this is such an honor to be here. So it's pretty. Did I answer your question? Did I go?
Not yet. We're going to come back to it.
Offline?
But I mean, I feel there's a little emotion in there, remembering that.
Yeah.
And,
well, you know what I'm going to do tomorrow? I'm going to be very emotional tomorrow. I'm going with the president to receive the caskets of the 6 men who and women who gave up their life, you know, who were killed, and their parents will be there. And I asked the president if I could attend with him, and of course he said yes immediately. But I think, you know, those are the moments that you really understand how important freedom and democracy is, and this way of life. It's incredible to me that, you know, you're meeting immigrants. Like we live in Miami. There's a Cuban community. What are they? 99.9% for the president, because they know what they left.
But,
you know.
But I will tell you that community injected into the city of Miami is what made us what we are today.
Oh, it's 100%. There's no doubt about it. It's an amazing community.
Yeah. So, you know, just sitting and going through some of these experiences and having the opportunity to feel them through your eyes, whether it's being on the aircraft carrier, or whether it's being and sitting with Hamas, and recognizing the importance of that moment, whether it's sitting in the Oval Office with the President of the United States. Some people might feel one way and some people might feel the other in this room, but it's still an incredible thing. And still the unanswered question of what's it like to sit with Vladimir Putin?
So you know, it's interesting. You know, when I first went to see him, I was sort of attacked because I went to see him. Now, of course, I went to see him at the direction of the president, and because it's always going to be about that. And that's not me making excuses. I was glad to, you know, I embraced it. How in the world are we going to make a deal there unless we're talking to the leader of the Russian Federation? It's just not possible, right? The notion that we could just go and meet the Ukrainians and that was going to get a deal done, it's not going to happen. First of all, he's got the bigger army, he's got nukes. I mean, there are national security implications. So, but we had a really positive relationship, and I met with him at least 6, maybe 7 times. Meetings never lasted less than 4 hours. One meeting was 8 hours. But I think we have a communication channel. And I think we actually are seeing some success. We just announced the prisoner swap. The parties are talking. We've had 2 trilateral meetings between the United States, Ukraine, and Russia. And a lot of this has to do with this relationship. The president's back, they're talking with President Putin, which he's always wanted. And I think that's how I'll give you the counterpoint. I describe, you know, my title is technically, I don't know what it is. President calls me a lot of different things, but what
are we supposed to call you?
I think you should,
Special?
No, I think you should call me, this is what I think my job is, the Secretary of Miscommunication.
Okay.
So
I don't think you're going to like that title if I'm addressing you that way.
Well, it's not, I don't think the president would like it. It's not so elegant, but that's what I do. What we're doing is clearing up miscommunication. I mean, the Israelis' perception of Hamas or Qatar, the Qataris' perception of Prime Minister Netanyahu. It goes to everything. Azerbaijan and Armenia, which we worked on. That deal on behalf of the president was the easiest deal because the New York Times didn't know about it. So they couldn't say anything nasty about what we were doing. We got that deal done in 6 weeks. They had been fighting for 37 years. And now they're best friends, by the way. The Prime Minister of Armenia and the President of Azerbaijan, President Aliyev, are good friends together, brought together by President Trump. It's quite remarkable. He thinks that every deal is solvable diplomatically until it's not, which is why we have this military action with Iran. But, peace is cool again.
So I just got to go back and ask one thing, because what an incredible journey from your first deal to all of these meetings and everything else. I just got to ask this. They've got to be paying you a lot of money for this, for bringing your expertise to the table and all this other stuff. I know they're not. So tell me a little bit about, this is going to be the most incredible philanthropic exercise known in the United States. How do you feel about what you're doing and your contribution?
Well, I don't take a salary, nor do many people in the administration. The president does not take one. I don't need one, and I wouldn't ask for it. I pay all my own I travel on my own plane. I pay all my own expenses. I do get a tax deduction for some piece of it, but it matters so much. It's so relevant that, like I said to my girlfriend the other day, well, if I wasn't doing this, we'd be out vacationing anyway. Maybe we wouldn't be going to Moscow and the Gaza Strip, where I've been.
Maybe in the future.
But maybe we'd be going to the Maldives. So this is how we talk. So for me, we get the call and we go. And candidly, I don't even think about the expense. I really don't. For me, it feels like that's my way. What you do philanthropically here, this feels like me being involved philanthropically.
I think we all feel an incredible debt of gratitude for your commitment, your love of country, your willingness to share.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Amazing. So it looks like we've got 1 minute and 17 seconds left. And there's probably 1 or 2 questions from the audience. I've kind of kept it in my court for a long time. What do you got?
Great interview. Steve, we've known you for a long time. You've been part of the university community. But this was a great interview. Stuart, you really took us into more of Steve's life and career that I think we didn't know about. So I appreciate the great job you've done here.
Thank you.
Along those lines, we have a question. Steve, how did your career, and now we know it involved both law and real estate, if it did, help prepare you for your negotiations on the world stage? Are there things about your prior life?
Yeah, well, I think we could have been taken down in so many crises, Larry and I. And there was the 1992 recession, there was the 97, 98 actually, Russian bond collapse, the 2003 dot-com thing. And we just learned how to persevere. And it wasn't easy. So I think that some of that experience led us to keep on, to sort of like, as you talked about grit, but it doesn't feel like grit. It feels like very natural to me. Like we just got to keep on plugging away, and we're going to get somewhere. And guess what? It's worked. There were moments in the Hamas thing where I would come home and I would say to Lauren, my girlfriend, I would say, we're not going to get it done. Like we got who we got out, and I don't know how I don't know how I'm going to sleep at night and just be thankful for that. We did not know, honestly, that we were going to get the last 20 out. In fact, if you were betting Poly Market, the odds would be that they were never coming home. But we had success, and that sort of propelled us to, to think that we'd have success in Russia, Ukraine. We actually think we're going to have a successful conclusion to that. We thought that if they were sensible in Iran, they would take the diplomatic overtures we made to them. We made them some very compelling offers, but the dignity thing stopped it. And you have to think it's in the business of real estate that I grew up in. You're always dealing with different personalities on the other side. And you have to learn to manage that part of it. And it's a good training ground. And I think President Trump understands that very well too.
I don't want you to forget the Great Recession and some of those calamities.
Right, 2008.
That was kind of a big thing too.
Exactly, exactly. And COVID.
And COVID, there's another one, yep.
Yeah.
This is an interesting kind of follow-up. You travel across multiple countries and time zones for negotiations. What is a day in the life of Steve Witkoff like, and how large of a team helps you carry out this effort?
It's not that big. We have 3 or 4 people working for us, but the reason there are people who have these large teams. We didn't feel we needed it. I think our philosophy, mine and Jared now, is that we have to set the framework for what the negotiation looks like. And then what we do is we go to the greatest backup in the world, which is the State Department and Marco Rubio. And he's an amazing partner, and he's the Secretary of State. We sort of see ourselves as emissaries of the State Department. So as we need experts, whether it's nuclear and so forth, ding-a-ling-a-ling, we call Marco on the phone, and he's got this amalgam of incredible talent there, and they're lent to us effectively. And it's very efficient, and we found it's a really good way to work.
I think this next question, this is part of your DNA, but what keeps you optimistic when working on some of the world's most difficult problems?
Well, I think what keeps me optimistic is President Trump. I think he's an optimist. He really is. He believes that, I think a lot has to do with the first assassination attempt, that, he believes that he's got a mission and he's got to fix a lot of these places. And he's an optimist. He really is. It's amazing. It's contagious. And I think that in large part keeps me optimistic. And then the second reason I'm optimistic, or maybe positive is a better word, is because I don't think you can do this job without being positive. I think it would become withering, and you just give up at times because, you go out there and you see there's so much fixing to do. That's why they all want to come here. I remember going into Gaza the first time, and I took the Kevlar helmet out. No American had ever been there in like 22 or 23 years. And the Gazan women, Stuart, had walked 6 or 7 kilometers, so 4 and 5 miles to get food. We were at a food distribution center. And I put the Trump black Make America Great hat on, and they all started cheering. These women who were just beginning to get food. And I thought to myself, boy, the world ought to see that Gazan women are cheering for a President Trump emissary. It showed us that conflict could be fixed. And, it's well on its way to getting fixed. So I think those experiences...
That's an amazing story if people would stop and think about it. Because that's on the other side of our expectations. You would expect it on the Israeli side. But it is a reality on that other side.
No, and
it just wouldn't be expected.
Stuart, you're spot on. You are. 20 Israeli, IDF soldiers came home to their families, but 250 Palestinian prisoners, some of whom, look, the criminal justice system does not get it perfect all the time. Some of these young Palestinians who were there, and this is not me being an apologist for Hamas, I'm not. I know who they are, I'm very realistic about that. But there's a lot of kids who were in jails, who were rounded up, who maybe were going home to their families. And there was jubilation in the streets of Gaza. And I think the world never understood that juxtaposition, that it was not just Israeli families that were grateful for this truce. It was also Palestinian families who were grateful for it.
Steve, when you look ahead, this role will eventually wind down. What's next?
Buying a boat? That's next.
You know, you have a boat.
Yeah, but it's
So buying another one.
A big one. Do you have one?
I do.
Okay. I figured.
And we always end with a question, and this was for both of you. You have a lot of young people here, and they're not so young. They're mid-20s. Some have experience. They're looking to go back out and restart or begin their careers. Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for them, each of you?
Look, my advice is listen very carefully to this gentleman. Because everything he talked about today is a reality where starting with nothing and then $20,000, becoming a lawyer and deciding to turn and go into real estate, and trying something that maybe he would win, maybe he wouldn't, and the stepping stones of that first property to 85 other properties to an audacious, large community or large property in Manhattan, and then the next one and the next one, and the next thing you know, step by step by step, grit, determination, a belief system, optimism that I can do this, and the next thing you know, you're sitting on the world stage, sitting across from the president, from Vladimir Putin, from Hamas. You wouldn't have thought that in your younger years, and yet step by step, and that American dream is something that we read about and meet the people and think in the rearview mirror, how easy the past seemed to have been for them, except for the fact that it wasn't easy. It was step by step. It had its ups, it had its downs, and that American dream is still available.
Yeah, I agree with you totally, Stuart, and I think that I agree with everything you said, and I look at your career, and it was always about belief. And successful people, unless they hit mega millions, that's what it's about. It's about belief and working hard and being true to what your ideals are. And I think if you do that, you have a very good chance. This is an amazing country, and you go to some of these other places, you realize how lucky we are, because there are people who are born there who don't even have a chance at birth. They really don't. You end up at a school like this, the chances are that you're going to have a very happy life.
Steve, do you know how to do this?
That's the...
You go ahead, put those fingers together.
Oh, that's the U.
There you go.
That's the U. Oh, okay. Thank you.